Hello, my name is Diane, and today I'm going to tell you everything that is currently on my TBR. I've spent the last few months going through my TBR, which was, I think, around 100 books. Now I have 28 books on my TBR. I read the openings of everything, and the ones that I was most interested in, I kept on my TBR, and anything that wasn't immediately engaging for me, I took off. So I was thinking about making an actual TBR for December. I haven't done monthly TBRs in a while because I tend not to follow them, but since I tend not to follow them, it seemed like a waste of everybody's time to make one just for December. In the future, I may try monthly TBRs again, but for now, I'm just going to tell you everything that survived my triad chapters and is still on my TBR. Since there are 28 books, I'm not going to talk too much about them, pretty much just what they are and very briefly what I remember about them. So all that being said, let's get into what is still on my TBR. The first book is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is a fantasy murder mystery. The opening is someone has died by a tree exploding out of their body or something like that. And our main character works for a great detective and helps to gather all the information so that they can solve this murder. The next book is Malice by John Gwynne. This has been on my TBR for a while, and I keep meaning to get to it. I actually just got my copy of it, so hopefully in the next couple of weeks I'll be reading this. I actually don't know that much about the plot of this, but it sounds like something that would interest me, and I liked the opening of it. So hopefully I'll enjoy it because it is the first of 4 in a series. The next book is Cybus Corax Deals with the Dead by KJ Parker. It's about a main character who basically scavenges battlefields for anything of value. I don't really know much else about it, but I've heard good things about it. I actually haven't heard a ton about this, but it is the first in a trilogy, and I think they're all out. I think they all came out very shortly after one another, which is good if I end up enjoying it. Next is The Silver Blood Promise by James Logan. This is about a main character who finds out that his estranged father has died, and this gives him the chance to change his life and figure out what happened to his father and hopefully get on a different track. Next is The Pariah by Anthony Ryan. This is about an outlaw who ends up joining the Royal Army. Next is The Gutter Prayer by Gareth Hanrahan. I'm currently reading one of Gareth Hanrahan's other series and really enjoying it. And I don't really know anything about this series, but I liked the opening, so I'm excited to read something else by him. Next is The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. In this world, ships are built out of bones from dragons, and the dragons have since disappeared, but now they are reappearing. I like nautical things, and I like dragons, and I've read R.J. Barker's works before, and I really enjoyed his writing. So I am interested to read something that he published previously. The Adventures of Amina El-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. It's about a woman who's a pirate and she's offered a job to save somebody's daughter. And that's all I know about this. I've heard really good things about this story and it sounds really interesting. Again, nautical story. I like pirates. I like a good adventure. Hopefully this lives up to what I've heard about it. The Boy on the Bridge by M.R. Carey. This is a sequel to The Girl with All the Gifts, which I did try a chapter for, and I've already read that book, and I enjoyed it. So I am curious to read the sequel to it. I believe it follows an entirely new cast of characters. I don't know exactly what is going to be happening with this new main character, but I am interested to return to this world and explore a little bit more about it. A House Like an Accordion by Audrey Burgess. This is about a woman who wakes up one day and her hand is disappearing, and she is going about her morning pretending that everything's normal while her husband and daughters are also getting ready for their days. And she realizes that this means that her father must be drawing her because he draws from real life, and she needs to find him and figure out why he's doing this and hopefully keep herself from disappearing entirely. This is another book that I just got my copy of, so I should also be reading this probably in the next week. The Witch's Boy by Kelly Barnhill. I read The Green Husband by Kelly Barnhill and I really enjoyed it. It's a very bizarre story, but I really liked it. And of her other books, The Witch's Boy definitely appealed to me the most. I think about halfway through this right now. I'm currently reading this one. It's about 2 young boys who live in a village and they build a little raft for themselves and go in the river. Unfortunately, one of them ends up drowning and everyone in the village says that the wrong boy lived. even though they could never tell the twins apart when they were both alive. So now this young boy and his family, his mother has magic that she has to protect. It's very dangerous. And one day she has to leave as she's summoned by the queen, and someone comes trying to steal that magic, and now he is the one who must protect it. There's a lot of interesting things going on in this. It's not as dark as I think it sounds because it is written for a younger audience, but it's also very interesting and very compelling to see what is going to happen with this magic and what this boy is going to do. Legacy of Ash by Matthew Ward. I honestly don't remember anything about the plot of this. But I must have liked the opening. I'm sure I'll remember it once I start reading it. All I know is it's the first book in a fantasy series. Hopefully it's good. The Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams. This is a political fantasy about a kingdom that is at war. The king is dying, I think, and that's all I remember about it. But I like political intrigue and fantasy sometimes, usually. The Winter King by Bernard Cornwell. This is an Arthurian retelling. I like Bernard Cornwell's writing. I haven't read a ton of his stuff, but I know that I like his writing, and I know that I like King Arthur stories, so I'm expecting to like this one, hopefully. Also by Bernard Cornwell is Harlequin, which is the Holy Grail story, which I think is also an Arthurian story, but I never realized that the two were related at all, even though I've known about both of them. I don't know a ton about the Holy Grail, so I'll be interested to see whatever he does with that. Nine Goblins by T. Kingfisher. This is a story about goblins who are warriors. I like T. Kingfisher's fantasy writing. I think she's more known for her horror stories, but I don't think I've ever read any of her horror, but I really like her fantasy, and this is one that I haven't gotten to yet. The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers. This is about a girl who is part of a family who someone from their family is regularly taken by this woman because of something that happened a long time ago that nobody remembers anymore. And her mother went to find a way to stop this curse and never returned. So now the woman who has cursed them or is punishing them, I don't know if it's actually a curse, sends this girl to find her mother, otherwise she'll have to take her place. A Feather So Black by Lyra Celine. Story follows a changeling who was swapped with a princess, and the queen knows that she's a changeling, but she has kept her and raised her, and now she has found some other way into the fairy realm and is sending this changeling through to go and bring back her actual daughter. This is another one that I just got my copy of, so hopefully I'll also be reading this in the next week or two. A Cautious Traveler's Guide to the Wastelands by Sarah Brooks. This is a story about a train, the Trans-Siberian Express, that travels through the wastelands, connecting to places. The wastelands are extremely dangerous, but they have managed to build this railway through it so that people can pass through safely. However, on the train's last journey, something horrible happened. No one's really sure what happened, but this is the first trip the train's making since that accident, and now the people on the train are realizing that the wastelands have changed and they're even more dangerous, and they are in danger of something happening to them as well, although they're not really sure what or if they can trust everyone on board. The Daughter's War by Christopher Buehlman. This is the prequel story to The Black Tongue Thief, which I read and enjoyed. I don't remember a lot of details about it, but I did really enjoy the story while I was reading it. And this gives more backstory into the Goblin Wars that are very important in that book. The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman. This is another Arthurian retelling, but this is after King Arthur's death. The main character in this arrives in Camelot, finding that he's too late to really join the Knights of the Round Table, as most of them have left. There are only a few that have remained behind, and together they decide that they're going to try and restore Camelot in the wake of the king's death. Space Mullet by Daniel Warren Johnson. This is a graphic novel series that was originally a webcomic about a pilot. I don't know, a pilot and his crew, kind of ragtag. Sounds interesting. Sounds like something I would typically like, so hopefully I do. The Dead Cattail Assassins by P. Jelly Clark. This is about a group of assassins who are all dead. I don't know why they're called dead cattail assassins, but they are all dead, and when they take on a contract, they have to complete it. So we follow one of these assassins taking on a contract that is, for some reason, going to be difficult or complicated for her. A Tide of Black Steel by Anthony Ryan. This is about a kingdom that there are longships coming with warriors on them. They're now in some sort of danger, and there is a brother and a sister who both go separate places to try and figure out what is going on and how to stop them and save their kingdom. At least I think they're both working towards that end. They are at odds with one another for some reason. That's all I remember about it, but it sounds really interesting. A Fine and Private Place by Peter S. Beagle. This is about a man who lives in like a mausoleum, I think. He lives in a cemetery, and he is kind of just a recluse, and he sees the ghosts of people that are passing on, and two of these ghosts fall in love with each other or something, and that's unusual and shouldn't happen, and he, I don't know, encounters them, and that's all I remember about it. The Crescent Moon Tea Room by Stacy Savinsky. This is about three sisters who run a tea room, and they each have things happening in their lives that could potentially lead them all in different directions. And that's all I remember about this, but I think it sounds like it could be cute. And also there's some sort of magic. This is a fantasy book. It just sounds like a silly contemporary about sisters that own a tea room. This is a fantasy. I think they're witches or something. Sorcery and Small Magics by Megaducey. This is about a character who is returning to a university, I think, and they have done or do some sort of spell that links them with their rival, and they have to now work together to try and undo whatever's been done, so they're no longer connected to one another. And the last book is The Scholar and the Last Fairy Door by H.D. Perry. This is about a main character who I think goes to a magic school, and she has done something with someone. This is so vague and not helpful. They have like opened something that they did the year prior, opened some sort of fairy door. They've unlocked the portal to the fairy realm, I think is what it is. And now they have to figure out how to stop that, because they have previously had wars with the Fae that have had very bad magical effects for the people in their world. And that's all I remember. It sounds really interesting, and I really liked the writing when I read the opening of this. So those are all the books still on my TBR. Those weren't great descriptions of the synopses. Sorry about that. But if any of these pique your interest, I'm sure you can easily find a much more concise, thorough explanation of what they're actually about, or just go look them up and read the synopsis. I'm obviously interested in all of these, and from my first impression, I liked the writing of them, and I liked the initial setup of each of these books when I read the openings of them. Let me know if any of these are on your TBR, or if there are favorites of any of yours that I should prioritize. Otherwise, that's all for me today. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.